Welcome. 15 minutes to add value with light to your space. Okay, my name's Richard from GDS. I'm the Managing Director. Let's get going. The Olympic Stadium was completely transformed during the London 2012 Olympics using a multitude of technology, from fireworks to complicated sound systems. But it was the lighting and projection, along with the video screen across every seat, that created a truly magical scene. I think it's fair to say that the lighting added value to the stadium. We see a different stream of setting permanent installations using lighting, and we need to think about how we do that without increasing the budget. When GDS created the London Skyline during those Olympics, it was a feat just in sheer logistics of moving set around. Okay, I've got lost, so I'm going to move on. So before GDS was created, going back to an early age, I was fascinated with the ability of light to change the look and feel of a space. I then spent 20 years working in lighting technology to do exactly that, albeit on a temporary basis. Creating the London Skyline with the lighting team at GDS was a fantastic achievement over a 12-week period. It allowed me to think about how I can add value to spaces using lighting. It's interesting, events and shows are normally geared around lighting sets and people that portray life, such as buildings and environments. So it should make sense we can consider the concepts in adding value to permanent installations. Like the great creators of our time, perhaps we can use the design concept of knowledge transfer, bringing ideas and inspiration from one field to the next, from the magic of the show environment to the internal spaces of our buildings and beyond. We can cleverly add value for the user and bring new dimensions to the look of the space. Of course, we have already successfully achieved this by considering how we change color temperature of our lighting, consequently changing the spectral power distribution by nature of the different frequencies within that spectrum. It seems the external lighting sector moves a little bit like the entertainment one, hence the coined phrase of architainment. During the day, the buildings are lit using natural light, so only considered how to light the buildings in show mode at night. It's here that we spot an interesting opportunity in reviewing the existing entertainment and architectural areas, how we can bring value into the architectural lighting products. It's clear the technology advances in lighting and control have been driven by the need to entertain continuously. What historically prevented us thinking about bringing this lighting design ethos into spaces that we control? Discharge lighting was not dimmable, it was bright, full of glare, fixed color, and frankly not suitable for more refined spaces, especially where people have to spend large amounts of their day underneath this lighting. Before we saw discharge lighting with limiting and sometimes damaging spectrums, now we have to consider also they were wasting light and heat energy as well, often with very peaky spectrums and uneven distribution. It's not just the LED change from tungsten that has allowed this technology to be considered for inside spaces. The development of solid polymer optics has refined the beams, reduced the glare, and increased the consistency of field distribution. Accurate dimming control has led to the stepless absolute zero fading and smooth transitions of color changing. The ability to change and configure the way we dim our LEDs has eliminated irritable switching frequencies and health concerns. Spectral LED developments mean we can create pretty close to real-world lighting by using violet phosphors producing the remarkably close spectrums to daylight. We avoid exposure to specific frequency peaks and enable true natural light from our solid-state devices for the first time. This then means we can consider light fittings that perform two functions. First, of rich saturated white light, following color and atmosphere into the space when needed. This color can be achieved using solid-state LED lighting, bringing a mix of emotions and feelings into this picture. Solid-state diode arrays now create better pastel colors than ever before, allowing these more subtle tones to be used with our people in our spaces. The development in different specific color LED emitters now mean we can mix colors in a much better way than before. It started with just RGB, but this was really limited, and although we see a white light, in effect we have a very crude, limited spectrum, only useful for basic feature lighting. To successfully bring color into buildings with people to create a comfortable atmosphere, we need to add additional colors such as RGBA, RGBW, and now even with the emergence of 7 and 9 color matching systems. Just specifying RGB is no longer good enough for our human-centric spaces. The user can start to be involved in the atmosphere and feel the space as opposed to just accepting the space once commissioned. They can become a stakeholder in lighting the space through control. For instance, moving lights, which were never considered a viable install option in environment architecture, are now starting to see their way from clubs and event spaces into this new architectural space. The functions of moving lights enable many jobs to be done, bringing value to the space without adding further fixtures. They can reside in normal conditions, providing functional working light, transforming the space when the feel needs to change. The cruise ship lighting industry is pioneering this hybrid approach, and we see normal public environments now deploying multifunction lighting, such as solid-state moving lights in public spaces, providing this dual function very effectively. And this is a shot of the NCL Epic atrium. The use of projection and gobos has widely been used in event and theatrical applications for decades. The use in architectural lighting has come to some extent limited to advertising and crude design applications. With the advent of LED sources, heat from the light beam is considerably reduced, enabling very high resolution projections and patterns that will not fade over operational lifetime of the product. This allows projection to be considered for installation and brings a whole new dimension to creating lighting design. It also can be easily changed, adding value to the spaces for events and the stakeholders. Projection mapping technology now enables very clever use of light to highlight only certain parts of structures, creating wonderful new looks that haven't been possible before. This emerging technology will start to find its way into permanent lighting installations of the future, although it's only just beginning now. Solid-state video production and point sources are starting to be used in permanent installations with the ability to use video projection as a light source, combining multiple color and patterns. Another technology historically only available to the short-term event industry. The challenge of bringing these extra lighting functions into the space is how they are controlled. For years, people have been using real-time show control systems, such as DMX and ArtNet, a network control protocol, but these control protocols remain relatively unknown in the architectural sector, and people are somewhat naturally wary of them. However, we need to start taking the control aspects of the projects more seriously than ever before. The control system is now becoming the most important component to unlock the creative capabilities of the project and allowing the stakeholders to use and create their own intentions. Further, with the progression of technology, the ability for the user to program and change the feel of the space is now possible as solid-state lighting becomes more integrated into our control platforms. In both architecture and entertainment, lighting is about creating experiences, and lighting control is how we deliver those experiences. We have already seen theatrical-style lighting philosophies being brought into domestic environments with the products such as Philips Hue range. The challenge for us is how we can scale up this technology into larger installations. It's not just about using theatrical lighting principles in our lighting design. There are other emerging principles that can add value for the building stakeholders. With the development of LED systems, we can consider splitting the components up, leaving the reliable LED emitters where they need to be and moving the parts that are liable to failure into more serviceable locations. When we do this, we can make the system much more reliable, use less power supplies, increase reliability, create a safer environment and save maintenance costs, reducing risk and adding value. On top of these benefits, the maintenance team can monitor the entire system and be notified of any faults as they occur. By installing a lighting scheme that can be dynamic and change the look and feel of the space, you create an environment that can expand and have other uses. Clever use of the control systems mean that you can get more out of your installed lighting. Turning the gym into an exam hall or a presentation theatre and then an evening event, all with the same fittings. The more we connect and integrate our lighting products, we bring more complex lighting schemes together and we bring in more colour. It's the colour that makes everybody happier and invokes emotions. The use of colour in theatrical settings enhances and saturates the space, and this can be achieved with our architectural projects in the same way for people and structures. Some text. So summing up, technology has now allowed us to bring theatrical elements into our commercial lighting design. By doing this, we create value for the space in the context of being multi-use. We enable a wider scope. By using control systems more suited to these exciting lighting technologies, we bring users into lighting design, empowering them, creating value for the stakeholders in the context of ownership. Basically, they become inspired. Then, by considering how we improve the long-term serviceability of lighting installation by moving components to more useful areas than, for example, difficult-to-reach ceiling spaces, we create value for the service teams in the context of maintenance. And finally, using knowledge transfer, bringing magic from theatre into permanent installations, we create emotional value for the visitors of the space. They become enlightened. So thank you today for your time. I hope you found some of the GDS insights useful. I've been Richard Cuthbert from GDS. Thank you. And sorry about the wobbly start.